Imagine being able to explore the immensity of the cosmos, go to another star in a matter of days, and break the laws of physics while doing so. Do you think that seems like pure science fiction? But what if I told you that we are now more than ever on the verge of realizing this dream? We're probably about to make a breakthrough. Unbelievably, scientists are bringing warp drive closer. Warp propulsion has only been a theoretical potential up until now. Before a single courageous researcher demonstrated that it is feasible, it was long thought to be pure science fiction. Although the mathematical viability of traveling faster than light has long been established, we haven't had the means to make the theoretical calculations a reality. There was one significant flaw in the warp drive. No matter in the cosmos can move faster than light, according to Einstein's theory of physics. Then, how could we travel through time and space with a starship and ourselves? More than 70 years ago, science fiction authors already had a solution: spacecraft that could bend space and time, so they could move through it without having to travel across the distances in the realm of matter. By forcing the starship through a fold in space-time, the warp drive essentially defies Einstein's physics and gets beyond its rules. The spaceship visually vanishes into time and space when the protagonists light the renowned drive in science fiction formats, like Star Trek, only to return a few moments later at a randomly chosen faraway place in the universe. Scientists believed this to be complete nonsense for a long time. However, some courageous individuals proceeded to test the theoretical feasibility of warp drive. And there's no doubt about that. To travel faster than light through the universe, we just need to address a few minor issues. Apart from the limitations of the relativity equations, another issue has emerged. It is currently unable to generate or compute the energy required to distort space-time. For decades, scientists have been trying to find a solution to the energy crisis. The breakthrough has now been made: bubbles of warp and solons. A warp bubble can be produced by solons, which are stable waves. In space, these waves are incredibly stable. The theory that scientists have now come up with is absolutely absurd, but it might work. Positive energy waves, called solons, conduct energy in a way that lowers the need for energy. Solons are steady, self-sustaining waves found in a variety of natural settings. You must consider them a structure, a transport medium, or a type of energy. High-speed data cables also use them. The steadiness of solons is their best quality. Long-distance runners keep their speed and form, and they remain stable even after running into obstacles or other solons. We require this immutability for warp propulsion, which is uncommon in nature. As a result, solons constitute a unique type of energy transfer rather than matter in the traditional sense. In actuality, these waves are not new. When a scientist noticed incredibly steady but mobile waves in water channels in the 19th century, they were initially identified. Fiber optic cables are used in telecommunications to transport signals over great distances without losing their speed or form. Solons are waves in quantum field theory, but they are so stable that they resemble particles. They are essentially the link between potential and matter because of their unique form, which lies between wave and particle. Quanta are waves until they are measured and turn into particles, as everyone familiar with quantum theories knows. In theory, quanta can exist in both wave and particle states simultaneously. However, when measured, they seem like solid substance to us humans. The truth of our material world and the mystery of quantum physics, incidentally, are still as irreconcilable with Einstein's physics as the warp drive. But as we can see from quantum mechanics, solons, and spacetime distortions, spacetime may have many more dimensions than the well-known 3 or 4. The way into space for humans may become evident after we have deciphered these dimensions. Therefore, solons are an intriguing concept for transcending the limitations of the physical world. The effectiveness of these waves as solutions to certain mathematical problems has already been demonstrated on multiple occasions. Warp drive is made possible by solons. A clever notion came to a German physicist. The notion that solons might be the answer to the energy crisis was first proposed by Dr. Erich Lentz. In addition to bringing us the first superluminal drives, these waves might also provide us with a solution to our current energy and electrical problems. Energy can be multiplied by the waves. Consider how a system that genuinely uses a lot of energy is fed a middling amount of energy. Energy in these waves can be reused at whim and may also be bundled and intensified due to the high stability and self-sufficiency of solons. We could use the force in precisely this way to create a fold by warping spacetime around a spaceship. So-called warp bubble in order to accomplish this. The bubble enlarges the area behind the spaceship and contracts the area in front of it. Because of the compression, the spaceship needs to travel a shorter distance in order to advance. Contrarily, the expansion pushes back the area that the spaceship has already traversed. Although it all appears to be a magic trick, Miguel Alcubierre demonstrated 20 years ago that this is feasible given current physics. The warp bubble is produced by this contraction and expansion, and it stays a stable region during the entire voyage of the fictional spaceship where the rules of ordinary physics are momentarily suspended. Alcubierre was unable to resolve this issue, though, because it requires a tremendous amount of energy to produce these spatial distortions. Other researchers picked up his work and quickly demonstrated that there should, in theory, be unusual energy sources that give us energy. But there's a catch. Strange energy and negative energy are still theoretical concepts that haven't been validated in practice. Since we don't even know if this energy exists, where should we obtain it or produce it in the near future? To enable warp drive, Dr. Erich Lentz of the University of Göttingen in Germany has discovered a readily available and constructive energy source in the form of solons. From a mathematical perspective, the answer might lie in solons, ions, and nucleons, or more specifically, systems built on solons. Still up for debate, though, is how we wish to approach the propulsion system as a whole. Even if solons provide us the energy's form, a classical drive is still required to disperse it and produce the space-time distortion. What might such a system entail, then? Ion thrusters are among the most well-known and widely utilized technologies. Due to their exceptionally high efficiency, these engines would be perfect for extended space travel. Ions accelerate electrically to produce thrust, which is the basis for how ion thrusters operate. We may accelerate very slowly, but steadily over extended periods of time using this technology. By the way, the Voyager probes, which have been exploring the universe for over 45 years, also employed ion thrusters. Ion thrusters only provide low thrust, which is a drawback. Due to the comparatively sluggish acceleration caused by this restricted push, the classic type of interplanetary travel would take much longer. But we'll have to wait and see what advancements can be achieved in this field, because the technology is far from depleted. The solar sail is another exciting concept for future spaceships. The pressure of photons released by the sun or other light sources is used by solar sails. According to simulations, this technology uses almost no fuel and has the potential to be very effective for long-distance transport. Now consider the potential that could be extracted from tiny amounts of light through combinations with solon technology. With an almost limitless supply of energy, spaceships could travel great distances after essentially recharging on stars. Materials for solar sails are extremely thin. They only function when their mass per square meter is extremely low. They might be vulnerable to flaws or annihilation in spaceships moving through the material world as usual. However, The sails would face almost no resistance as they passed through space-time fold. In the upcoming years, similar sails will already be installed on missions within the solar system. The technology is now being advanced through NASA's LightSail project. Finally, it should be noted that nuclear propulsion systems are still in use today. These technologies are being discussed once more, especially in relation to future space missions like trips to Mars and the Moon. Of course, it is tempting to use ion engines or solar sails, but nuclear propulsion systems can deliver much more thrust. But nuclear technology has also presented certain challenges to humanity, and spacecraft equipped with radiating reactors are dubious options for lengthy space travel. In a decade, warp drive? The pioneer of this study should not be overlooked while discussing warp drives. A natural warp bubble was discovered a few years ago by Dr. Harold G. Sonny White, who has been working diligently on its use ever since. Dr. White, a former NASA top scientist, is now self-employed and manages the Limitless Space Institute with support from foreign sponsors. Dr. White had nearly given up on finding answers to warp drive when he happened upon an odd discovery. He discovered a natural warp bubble while studying the formation of Casimir cavities, which in reality had an entirely different function. It is produced by what physicists call the Casimir effect, which is the result of physical forces acting between two metal plates at a very short distance. Despite being less than 1 millimeter in size, this natural warp bubble is quite real. Dr. White's finding also demonstrates that positive energy sources can be used to produce a warp bubble. Here's where solons are useful again. Combining the research of Drs. White and Eric Lentz may open up completely new physics domains. The practical implementation of warp drive is still decades away, according to current estimations and research. There are still many energy and technical obstacles to overcome. However, we are discussing the first space missions using warp spacecraft as well as their practical applications. Sonny White believes that within 10 years, the first working prototypes of a warp drive will be available. To be informed of every new development, subscribe to the channel right away.